Right.
The one I sent you.
Move the tables, they may.
Thanks, Jonathan.
This one's not working. See? Lucky I tested. 1, 2, 3. It's now working.
Press the microphone, it'll go red. Press this button on the microphone. It will turn red to speak. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. The first item of business on the agenda for this morning's hearing is to appoint a chair for the hearing. So, councillors, can I have a nomination, please?
I nominate Councillor Buston.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Very well. You happy to proceed on that basis, committee? Councillor Buston, over to you, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello, good morning everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Committee, Wednesday the 18th of November 2025. I'm Councillor Roger Buston. I'm a councillor for Prettygate Ward and I will be chairing the meeting this morning. To begin with, there are a few matters of housekeeping. Those who have been here before will know exactly what I'm going to say now. With the exception of the Democratic Services Officer advising us, would participants all please mute their microphones unless they are invited to speak. This meeting is being broadcast live over the Council's YouTube channel, where the recording will be available to view afterwards. I will ask for the item of business to be presented and we will then proceed in accordance with the hearings procedure guidance, which is summarised at page 5 on the agenda document. There we are, looks like that in case you haven't seen it, which will ensure that everyone and anyone who wishes to have ample opportunity to address the committee may do so. To summarise the procedure, I will invite the licensing officer to present their report, and I will then invite the applicant to present their case. There will then be an opportunity for any clarifying questions from the committee and for the personal licence holder to provide a final statement summing up their case. I will also invite then anybody who wishes to speak to be able to do so in relation to the matter. We may have a break at 12:30 p.m. subject to the progress of business. I will now ask, by way of introduction, each participant in turn around these tables to confirm their name and that they understand the procedures for the meeting, which is quite important, and I'd like you to acknowledge that. Starting from my left.
Good morning, everyone. This is Councillor Kemal Çofoglu.
And you're happy with the proceedings?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Rebecca Strawn, Legal Advisor to the committee. I'm happy and understand the proceedings.
And Matthew Evans, Democratic Services Officer. Yes, all clear, Chair. Thank you.
Sarah White, Licensing Team Leader, understand. Thank you, Shannon.
And Karen Booth, Licensing Officer, all understood, Chair. Thank you.
Portia Coppin, owner of the Revival Pub, and I understand all the proceedings. Thank you.
Philip Coppin, applicant for licence of the Revival Club. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ferrier Robert Stephen, and I've never seen these proceedings before, but I believe I understand them anyway. But I'll follow whatever goes.
And Catherine Spindler, Councillor for the Saints Ward, understand all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Item 3 on the agenda is substitutions. Councillors will be asked to say if they are attending on behalf of a committee member who is absent. I don't believe anybody is. No, thank you. We're all the first team. Declarations of interest. This section is to invite councillors to declare any interest for any of the items that are on the agenda. Councillors must publicly announce the item number and whether or not the interest is disclosable pecuniary, other pecuniary, non-pecuniary, and the nature of their interest.
No interest, Chair.
No. No interest.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, possibly somewhat unusually, I do have some interests to declare. None of them are disclosable other pecuniary, but they may be regarded as background, and I will explain the nature of them. It is important to do this, just for procedural reasons. I am a member of the Royal British Legion, and I have been for many, many years, following many years' service. I'm also a solicitor, and I have been a solicitor in this town for about 40 to 50 years. Therefore, over that time, I have, because I get involved in buying people's properties, bought properties for various people up and down Straight Road and in Boxted, and I'm aware of the premises. I'm aware that various people have raised both notes of support and objections to the application. You will have noted from your song sheets that these are all redacted, so nobody actually knows who has raised an objection or who indeed is in support, unless they specifically wish to do so. So I make that declaration just so that you can all get a picture of who I am. And indeed, if the applicants wish to object to my sitting in that regard, you must say so now. So are you happy with that? Happy with that? Okay, thank you very much indeed. In which event, thank you very much. We will proceed, and I will now move on to item 5, the Licensing Act 2003 Premises Licence Application, and I will invite the licensing officer, Sarah White, to present the council's report, please. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chairman. The matter before the Licensing Subcommittee is an application by the Revival Pub Company Limited for a premises licence to enable the sale of alcohol and the provision of films from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m, Mondays to Saturdays, and from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays. As outlined in the report, the deregulations of the Licensing Act 2003 would enable the applicant to have a variety of regulated entertainment within any area covered by the premises licence, in the event that it is granted. The deregulations mean that the Council's discretion is not engaged, and conditions in relation to deregulated entertainment cannot be added to the licence. The question of planning permission has been raised. The two regulatory processes of planning and licensing are not linked, and the relevant planning consent does not have to be in place before an application is made for a premises licence. With regard to the issue of parking, the committee will be aware that in reaching a decision on the application, it is able to consider and condition matters over which applicants have control. Applicants' licence holders cannot control the parking of others on the public highway, and this matter is therefore outside the remit of the committee. Police and Environmental Protection have agreed conditions with the applicant, and these are shown in the report, and have not therefore raised objections to the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. That's quite clear. I think it's quite important for everybody's perspective that the parameters within which we are allowed to proceed are made plain. There are restrictions on what we can and cannot do under the Licensing Act, and it's right that they should be explained. So now let us move on to the next stage. Going back to my song sheet. Right. We can now proceed with the applicant. If you'd like to present your case, please.
We bought the premises with the intention of providing a welcoming whole drinking place for the more mature people of the village, as there is no public house or club of that sort within reasonable distance. We thought that it would be nice to have somewhere where the more mature people can meet, drink in comfort. We're trying to turn it into, we've upgraded the heating. We've got out the old oil-fired, which was dangerous, took the tank out, and the boiler, and we had electric air conditioning put in. As soon as we can afford, if we get a licence, we're going to upgrade the toilets, which are in serious need of it. They haven't been touched for years, and they need to be made welcome, especially for the ladies. We propose to keep the prices at a very competitive level to try and encourage people to come in and not drive to Colchester or Burgolt or anywhere else, so that they can drink within the neighbourhood or walk there from their homes, which is going to be a lot more built, I understand, which should help us. We're not hoping to have music at the time. We've got no music in the place whatsoever, not even a radio. We haven't got Alexa or any of those, and we're not at the time looking to. In the future, we might have background music, but that would be about the most we want, quiet background music, so you can still talk and listen to people. I feel there's a need for somewhere like this in the area, as there doesn't appear to be much like it. We've got pool teams lined up and dart teams lined up, and there seems to be quite a demand for it. We're hoping to include other activities such as children's clubs and mother groups as soon as we've established. I think that just about sums up. There are large trees all round the premises, 2 of them in a state of decay. They have protection orders on them, and we're investigating how we can cut back the ones with decay so that we can make it safer. The parking, we've got 10 extra parking spaces so far. We're investigating the new owners of the lodge, and we're hoping to be able to purchase another piece of land beside it to create an extra car park. I think that about sums up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coppin. As there are 3 of you sitting at the applicant's table, do you all want a bite at the cherry?
Right. Oh, right, I'm on now, right. Right, we bought the Revival pub, and I have been going, when it was the British Legion, we were going there and supporting them for a few years. And we're doing so now because we're in affiliation with the British Legion. They've got an office in the Revival pub, and they're going to host their, quiz nights and things like that. And also the Metals that go there once a month for 3 hours, once a month. They support St Helena's Hospice, which is it's very close to me because I've had family members, sadly, that's passed with cancer, and they donate a large amount each year. So, we're hoping also to help local charities as well. And I'm still working with the NHS at the moment, due to retire next year. So then I can have more of an active role, working sort of full time. Okay, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrier, do you want to have another?
I'm basically here to address the complaints that we've heard about. If you want me to do that now, I can, or later. I'm not sure of how it proceeds, to be honest with you.
Well, I would suspect it's probably better to hear from people than have a response, because you are entitled to a response anyway.
Okay.
But I suggest that is probably best. I think I'd rather phrase things as objections rather than complaints, because you can only complain about something that's happened. You could object to something that's about to happen or you think might be, but you can't really complain about it because it hasn't happened yet.
You can see why I'm not a solicitor.
That's fine. Thank you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Right. Committee members, do you have anything you would like to ask of the Councillor Cuffield?
Thank you, Chair. I have few questions for the officers and few questions for the applicant. Maybe I would start with my questions for the applicant. So the licensing authority considers it extremely important that licensed premises operate as good neighbours within their community, and that license holders are encouraged to engage with local residents and businesses prior to submitting applications and for the duration of their license, to ensure that any problems can be dealt with promptly and to ensure the promotion of the licensing objectives on that basis, an ongoing basis. Therefore, could the applicant please let us know if they engage with their local community and local residents, because this was also something which was mentioned by some of the respondents as well. So I was wondering if you engage with local community before your application. And linked to that, I was wondering if your application is approved, how often are you planning to hold meetings and engagements with local residents and businesses to ensure that any problems can be dealt with promptly? Thank you.
We've done, my wife and I have both done our DBS courses and passed. As to conferring with local residents, we've had one come in and complain, and he said he wouldn't be coming in because he buys his stuff from Tesco's. He lives almost directly opposite, which was fair comment. There's a lady who parks her car in the car park and has done for the last couple of years. We've had only one communication with her. My colleague went out and tried to talk to her and asked if she could park in the corner a bit more prettily, because she was parking in the, with room for two others, which makes it difficult. We're trying to fit in with the local community. We don't intend to actually open the hours that we're asking for, but we understand that to be able to open, when we do want an event, we had to ask for the longer hours. We actually hope to open from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 9 o'clock most evenings, except when the dark match is on, which will be till 11 o'clock. And those will be our basic hours. We probably won't be opening on a Sunday at the moment. It will depend on demand. If there's no demand, we won't be opening. I think that's, have I put my foot in it enough?
I believe so, but yeah, I believe if you can organize meetings with local residents in future,
They're welcome.
It would be appreciated.
In answer to your question, we have been super busy, but when we were doing the place up, we did have lots of people popping in, you know, supporting us, and people that had been going to the original British Legion coming to support us, but, you know, and I've had recent bereavements as well, so we've had so much to do, but yes, we were going to organise a meeting, and we feel that, you know, we're open door. If anybody has got anything, then, you know, we could have, with hindsight, just settled it better so that we could, you know, have addressed everybody's fears. That because it has been there for a very long time. So, yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. Moving to my next question, in pages 13 to 14, the key KF2 location of licensed premises state that the licensing authority considers a number of circumstances as key issues in relation to the location of licensed premises, including the proposed operation of the premises having regard to the licensable activities applied for the size, structure, and proposed capacity, and the type and nature of the business, including the proximity of the premises to local residents, and the general character of surrounding area, including crime and antisocial behavior levels. Linked to these points in page 14, section 3.18 recognizes that there is a need to balance the needs of residents with that of the nighttime economy. Licensees should consider how their premises could impact upon the needs of local residents and businesses, highlighting that particular consideration is expected to be given a number of points, including prevention of disturbance by people outside the premises, such as smoking areas, and litter from premises. This issue is considered particularly relevant in respect of late night takeaways and smoking related litter outside of licensed premises. So based on these points, I was wondering if there will be a smoking area outside and what considerations and approaches will be in place to ensure management and prevention of smoking related litter outside of licensed premises.
My husband and myself, we've just said, we've done our DPS checks. There is a designated smoking area with the Revival pub at the side, and well, we don't have any, there's no takeaway vans or anything. And because that pub, because it was the British Legion, it's been there for how many years?
1948.
77 years.
Yeah.
So we don't envisage to change anything. We're not going to have super loud music or anything like that. So, and we will adhere to, you know, we're not going to, we're not youngsters ourselves. My husband's in his twilight years, I'm in my autumn years. We just...
Objection.
So yes, we will. I am very aware of noise, and I wouldn't want to live next to a noisy premises. So I don't think people are going to go out. And our staff also are going to be, they will be trained. We did keep the existing staff, actually. There was only one of the existing staff from the Legion that wasn't able to take up the post. So, you know, they will all adhere to things that we have in place.
Thank you very much. Moving to my questions for our officers. For the benefit of respondents and residents, could I request some clarity and commentary from officers and our legal advisor around respondent number 4's inquiry around members' premises license?
Yeah. Can I just ask what you want me to clarify?
There were concerns that previously this location had a different license, and there were concerns around how that a change might impact their new arrangements. But I just received responses from our advisor, so I guess I will move to my second question.
Do you want me to, for the purposes of the meeting, just to clarify, there was a licence in place and that licence is no longer in place. It's been surrendered.
Thank you very much. Moving to my next question, in page 22, a respondent from Oakfield claimed the blue notification letter was not displayed as instructed and it is my understanding that the closing date for the objection had to be moved from 6th of October 2025 to 23rd of October 2025 to allow sufficient display time of the blue notice and residents' time to object. Could I request some clarity on this claim?
Thank you. There was an initial issue with the blue notice, but that was rectified, and the end of objections was amended to ensure that there was the sufficient objection period.
Thank you very much. Moving to my next question in page 22, respondent 4 shared their concern around some terminology regarding washrooms versus kitchen, and that there might be a potential legal loophole. Would officers like to respond to these claims and provide some clarification?
That lies outside the Licensing Act, not something I can comment on.
Thank you. And I'm aware that we already briefly mentioned about transport and parking, that it mainly goes beyond our remit. But again, in page 14, section 3.19, it was stated that consideration should be given to the effective availability of transport in relation to the premises, including the proximity of public transport, in order to ensure customers are able to get home safely and without causing disturbance. Do we have any information on this matter? And if can I get clarification that this is something that goes beyond our remit?
Parking is a matter that's beyond our remit. It's up to members to consider the application within it as it's presented to you to make a judgment on those points. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Any points, Catherine? No? No, okay. If I may, just a few observations. The comments that have been made really highlight the difficulties that some of the things that Council has to do are faced with. You think it would be an all-in-one item that you could clear up altogether, but it isn't. There are some items that clearly fall within planning. There are some items that fall within building regulations, all of which you've got to satisfy. So there are actually a lot of hurdles that you have to jump, and they don't all come in the same race course. You actually have to go to different places to get different things, which does seem a little bizarre, but that's the way it is. I think from your presentation, if I could, and please tell me if I'm mistaken here, what you're indicating is you're really just looking to extend what the Royal British Legion Club did before and sort of bring it up to date, rather than to make it, say, a rave club or an all-night drinking den or something of the like. All of your presentations have come across saying that. And if you're happy with that representation being made, that is something that I suggest will ease a lot of the concerns that residents have clearly expressed in the very detailed points that they have made. And from what you said, and I accept what you said, it does come across as though that is your aim. And if you indicate that that is your aim, and you're nodding and smiling enthusiastically that this is so, and bearing in mind that the meeting is being recorded, then residents hopefully will be able to gain some comfort from that knowledge. The reason that's important, and I think the reason behind Councillor Choflu's initial question, was that if you're going to have a good relationship with your neighbours and residents, which you will need in order to survive, because people, in the way that you're going to do it, aren't going to come from far and wide. They're generally going to be people quite local to you. You need to engage with them proactively rather than waiting for them to come to you. I think he was rather looking at, did you send out a letter to everybody saying, hey, we're going to do this, what do you think? Come and talk to us. I think that's really what you, is that what you had in mind?
Yes.
I think that's what he had in mind. So if I can just explain what I think is the background to his question, that might assist you to know why he asked the questions. And perhaps had you done that, and perhaps had you done that proactively, then you might have a fewer people here than we do today. Anyway, that's just my understanding of where we've got to in relation to your presentation. So, anyway, people will also, I suspect, want to know, going on from what you've said, I think residents would have liked to know what you actually propose to do with the building. Now, that's not a licensing item, that's a planning item, and you'll need to, if you're going to carry out major works to the property, you will need to obtain planning consent for it, and you know this already, as well as building regulations approvals. But I think residents would have liked to have known that, and that might have assisted them in supporting you rather than asking lots and lots of questions. And residents looking at their questions, I suppose one of the things that comes out to it from me, and also knowing the premises, well, if the British Legion didn't make a profit out of doing it, how are you going to do it without altering things substantially? And that's what comes across to residents, and I think they're thinking about that. I hope you do. I hope you do manage to keep it as it is and make a profit out of it. But that you will see why they're asking the question. And engaging with them proactively, as Councillor Cutler was suggesting, I think might have assisted you in that process. Anyway, just have a think about that, because the next stage of the process will be to hear from residents and objectors and what they have to say. And then I will invite you to have another comment in relation to that, because this is a developmental process and we're trying to achieve a result that will make everybody happy. Okay, are you happy with that? Okay, okay, right. Okay, we now move on, if we may please, to the next stage of the process, which is to hear notes and comments from objectors. And I have a list of 11 people here, 12 actually, 12 people. And I will, so not everybody wishes to speak, I hasten to add, but I'll call all the names just for the sake of form, and if nobody responds to that name and says they don't want to speak, they don't have to. Pardon?
Chair, I think if you just call forward the people who wish to register to speak,
Mark,
if that's
all
okay.
right, okay, fine, we'll save time, otherwise we'll be here forever. Okay, fine. In which case, the first person that wishes to speak, representation number 2, was Mrs. Stairmond. Mrs. Stairmond here? And she at the back shall be first. Would you like to come forward to the hot seat? It's not like one of these television programmes where you get a big prize, I'm afraid. You just sit down, make yourself thoroughly comfortable. Don't rush. When you're ready, just press the little button in front of you, the little red light will go on, and you may have your say.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today, and I am representing my husband. He would be here, and he's really good at this sort of thing. We've lived in Boxhead now, I think about 27 years, and I have to say it's a hidden gem. It's one of those places outside Dedham. Everybody knows Dedham, and everybody talks about Dedham first. But in fact, we are very, very, very protective of our beautiful little village because it's got great walks. It's absolutely fantastic. And we've had a great parish council who've actually protected us as much as possible. And we're very grateful to all the work that they do and how they try to look after us. And when we see the building going on in X, Y, and Z villages, we are perfectly aware of how lucky we are. However, we also understand as a village we have to move forward. We can't stay in the antiquated times of the provincial sort of dreams that we all have, because life has got to move forward and we have to go with the times. The principle of the British Legion is really good. We've always supported it for years, and we also understand the work that they've done, etc., etc. I have to say, your input onto the web, the internet, was like a bomb. There's no other word to describe it. We weren't expecting it. We didn't know anything about it. And the way it comes across is if you're going to be having a great time every single night. I don't think for one moment that is the case. But as residents, we are very, very concerned. My husband sent some photographs in of the importance of the parking, and I know that that's a completely different issue. However, we have a village, a beautiful village school down the road, which is good, but I think with touches outstanding in it. It's got a great reputation. We have parents who bring their children from outside the box, outside box now, because you're allowed to do that. You don't have to be within the area. So we have an issue where we have mums coming down 9 o'clock in the morning and collecting their children at 4. The intention that we read about was the fact that your new pub, the Revival pub, will be open from 11 to 11. We've heard today that that might not be the case. However, there's an issue of people coming down, and the parking is terrible. And when you've had events in the British Legion, it's almost impossible for us in Oakfield Drive to get out of our drive because we can't see clearly without possibly having an accident. And B, the issue about children going to school and coming home with that type of traffic is actually something that I don't think it needs to be considered. But my husband's put a very good case about the parking, and he's really concerned about it. And I know that everybody who's read all their papers. And it comes across that you're having a partying type of venue. And whilst today you are talking about keeping it very conducive for the village, which I totally appreciate, we're looking long term here in 2 years' time, as you would like to make money and actually make it more competitive against some of the most outstanding areas to eat in the county, such as Milsons and the places in the Towel Booth and all sorts of places. We don't necessarily want to be at your beck and call for loud music at night. And one of the issues that I personally have is when the British Legion have personally had music at night, I find it quite distressing on a Saturday evening to listen to somebody else's music when I haven't chosen it myself. And I think my well-being, and I'm sure I'm talking about a lot of people, the well-being and the constitution of how we regard the village, I think is hugely important. And I don't think we're very difficult people at all. I think we're very, very aware that we have to move forward with the times. But the thought in a couple of years' times where you would like to make more money, make it more competitive, and actually make it more conducive to what you would like it to be, it kind of worries me, because we have music in the past, and I don't like sitting out there on a Saturday night listening to somebody else's music which I haven't chosen in my garden, and I don't think for one single moment I'm the only person. So there's a wealth of reasons why we're sitting here today wanting to talk to you, and we personally appreciate that you'd like to have a business and make it successful. But certainly the parking is an issue which obviously doesn't come under today. The danger of that road, people trying to get in and out of their own drives and actually trying to get onto the road, is really important. And just the logistics of it seems quite dangerous. Of course, you are applying to get more land for parking, which I appreciate. But I'm looking long term. I don't want to have loud music played to me in my back garden on a Saturday night at different times when I haven't chosen it, and I want a nice quiet time with my friends. And I'm being quite honest about this, and I'm thinking about the well-being of our lovely village of people who've worked so hard to keep it the way that it is. However, we want to obviously work with you since you've bought it and make it conducive to us as well, so there is a balance. And I just have to say, I was a good neighbour for 3 years, starting in lockdown. And one of the things that really shocked all of us, and Arabelle Bentel led it, was the fact that hardly anybody ever used it. So the older residents actually in Boxstead are very well catered for, quite adept, and do get into cars and do travel. So the thought of people walking to the British Legion is probably a bit far-stretched, because people will get out in their cars and nip down to Milsons and nip down to the really nice pub, the Sun Inn and whatever. And that came across. Everybody was people to organise them to take them out to places. And I was barely phoned to actually ask for any help. So it's an upwardly mobile village where people are very well organised, who are older, to actually help them out. So I just thought I'd mention that in the passing as well. I think that's all I have to say. We want to keep it lovely. We don't want to be difficult, but we certainly don't want noise, and we do want to keep it as beautiful as our parish council have tried to do over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Stairman. Before you go, do you want to ask anything?
Thank you, Chair. I believe Speaker briefly mentioned this point, but I also noticed this comment and concern in our agenda, where a number of residents mentioned applicants' website and promotions of their events. We were suggested that we need to pay attention to applicants' website and social media, because they are claiming that they are a licensed public house already at the heart of a small rural community, and they already organize few events. So personally, I would like to get our legal advisor's opinion on this matter, that the applicant is claiming that they already have a licensed public house. Yeah, there were a number of events which were organized, and I was wondering if there was a 10 license or notice in place. Thank you very much.
Yes, councillor. I suspected you might see that. That is a TENS application, so they're temporary event notices. A licence isn't required, a full-time licence, and they can be applied for throughout the year. The difference with the TENS and a full licence is that there isn't any control on a TENS, so there aren't licence conditions that the applicant has to stick by. So in a way, actually having a licence means that the applicant is held to harsher controls than having lots of temporary licences.
Excuse me, can I just say, what is a TENS?
TENS, temporary event notice.
Oh, right.
Temporary licence for a specific event.
So does that mean we could have live music? Okay, just wanted to check that one out, thank you.
As our officer said at the start of the meeting, music is deregulated anyway. It's not a matter that we can decide on within the licensing objectives, but certainly if there could be something, if it was a full licence was granted, controls can be made within limits, but it's not regulated by the licensing authority. It once was, but not now.
Thank you, Rebecca. Just to get further reassurances on this claim, that the applicant in question, they are already a licensed public house. Is there anything that we can request to get further clarifications on this? Maybe warnings around the language used before this hearing? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, I was concerned about the continuous reference to parking. So I'm finding it very difficult to understand why it's possibly the problem of possibly the problem of them when it comes to school parking. As we know, when applying for your children to attend school, you are able to apply anywhere. And some schools have a very high attendance of people that do not live in the local area of that school, which brings a lot of footfall, a lot of traffic. If they've offered parking for parents to park in their car park while picking up and dropping off, that's a plus I can see more than a minus, because they're offering to assist. But has the school put anything in place? This is a separate thing that the school should be sorting out, and the fact that if they've offered parking, that's just an extra thing they're offering the village, that they don't actually have to offer the village. And this is a separate matter when it comes to parking. This is a highways thing, I believe, is that right?
I possibly wasn't quite clear enough. The school has probably got parking, but I do know that parents park outside the school because it's a popular school and there's not enough. And I'm sure you're aware of how small Boxted is actually in the epicentre. I'm just concerned by the time there's an event, the pub is open, and the timing of collecting children from school, roughly about between 3 and 4, there's going to be a lot of traffic around in that time. If the pub is open from 11 or 4 or whatever time it is, it coincides with that time. And the original presentation on the internet indicated it was going to be open from 11 till 11. So that would have meant people might have been sitting around, I don't know, having tea, coffee, drinking or whatever. And it would have meant that it would have coincided with children being collected from school. And I see personally that, and then we have, it's not a big road, Boxted Straight Road. I see that personally as quite an issue and a concern for the safety of the children, the safety of everybody. People are coming in and out of the pub, out of the British Legion, and it's busy, etc. We didn't know till today, that it was going to be from 4 till 9. Nobody has given us any indication of anything except what we have actually found on the internet. And I think that's really poor for a small village. So today was the only first indication that we knew that it was going to be more conducive to the place that we were living in. And that might help the school, and that's why I mentioned the school before. But certainly if you open from 11 till 11 at night and people are hanging around the British Legion having a casual time, maybe drinking, there's going to be children collected from the school, and it is a busy, quiet road at that time. But until today, we didn't know.
So, sorry, so the school's a separate issue and shouldn't really be into this particular thing. There's lots of business along Straight Road. So I think if you're going to bring traffic into this, it needs to be considered that they're not the only business in Straight Road that brings traffic. And maybe parking and other businesses, it should be a bigger picture that we're looking at, not just the British Legion, which is nothing to do with licensing, as far as I can see. Is that right?
I would say that, but the businesses are further down the road, which don't impact on the British Legion. This is the nearest business or the nearest building outside the British Legion, which is actually in walking distance. And that's why I'm concerned about it. But I do appreciate absolutely everything that you've said. And I think I rest my case, I hope, today. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Chairman. I think your husband's got competition, actually. I think you can go home and tell him he can take a rest.
But I'm still a very subservient wife, I have to say.
Oh, I wouldn't say that too loudly. Good heavens.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. That's a very useful contribution. I think we disappeared down a few rabbit holes that are not actually strictly the remit of this committee, but nonetheless they are useful rabbit holes in some context. I did see you scribbling down on the back of your song sheet at the point when we mentioned, or Mr. Taylor mentioned, if you were to offer parking to the school, for example, during school in and school out time, if that becomes available, if you manage to buy the extra piece of land and if you manage to make it into a car park, that would be considered, I'm sure, a very village socially responsible thing. And I presume that's what you were scribbling down on your list. Oh, okay, well, I've sown the seed in your mind there. Okay, but you want to say something. I can see you champing at the bit there.
Say something that, from my understanding, the school is a mile away down the road, and we don't open at that time. When the schools are opening, when they're closing, we will not be opened at that time. And that's what, so the school issue is also.
And we never put that ad on Facebook. I wouldn't know how to. That was put on by another publican who thought they might be taking over the bar and didn't.
Yes, that website with this party, I can't see it, and we are not, I'm average with technology, it's not my thing, and we did not put that on there, this party type and all these raves and music, loud music. That is not what we are about.
Well, thank you very much indeed for clarifying that. I'm sure that the objectors that have turned up today and have written all these items will be pleased to hear that. The issue that nonetheless comes forth that Mrs. Stairwood actually did bring forward, mention is, although you have no intention of doing that, if you hand it on to somebody else who does, this might be a concern. So I'm merely stating that so that you understand the concern that has been brought about. But I think we've quite successfully gone through that particular item, and perhaps we could now move on. The second name I have on my list who's actually attending is Mr. Bird. Mr. Bird, if you'd be kind enough to come forward, please. Same drill, make yourself comfortable, there's no hurry.
Mr. Chairman, committee, my name is Paul Bird. I am a resident. I think I can waive my anonymity because it's going to become clear when I give my objection that we actually live 2.4 metres or 7 feet from this applicant's premises. I think it's right that I mention my background before I give my evidence. I was a police officer in Essex Police for 30 years. I joined when I was 18, I retired when I was 48. During that time, I was a police licensing officer for approximately 7 years. What I would like to start with is there's a little bit of vagaries to the background to the Royal British Legion or the British Legion premises and this application for a new one licence. So perhaps for the purposes of enlightening the other objectors and maybe even the applicants, I could clarify where we are in that respect. The British Legion applied for, or did apply for, a registered club certificate. Now, a registered club certificate can be applied for by a members club, which allows them to sell alcohol to their own members. Now, a member has to be proposed and seconded and accepted into the club. The alcohol is supplied to the member by the club itself. You can't walk in from the street and say, I'd like a beer, I'd like an alcoholic drink, because you're not a member of the club. With my original uniform police patrol hat on, I can say that the number of times that you get sent to a members club, such as the Royal British Legion, for fights in the club, fights in the car park, disorder, incidents of theft, etc., very, very few. I could count in 30 years, in one hand, the number of times I've been sent to a registered club. They are traditionally self-policed in the sense that if an applicant is not suitable to be in a registered club for whatever reason, whether the existing club members find that person to be dangerous in some way, whether they're objectionable, their conduct, they're an angry drunk, they don't get permission to use that club. And obviously, if a member who already has got permission in some way disrupts the harmony of the club on a regular basis, their membership is withdrawn. So I have a lot of admiration for the Royal British Legion, and I have a lot of respect for the idea of a club registration certificate as was. Now, going back to the original grant of the club registration certificate for the premises in State Road, the licensing justices at the time would have taken into consideration the fact that a members club is self-policing. The applicant today has said that he wishes to cater for a specific group of people. He wishes to cater for elderly residents, much in the same way that the Royal British Legion catered for servicemen. In fact, police officers are also part of the national remit for becoming members of the Royal British Legion. So uniform personnel will become members of specific membership. If there was an application for that type of members club, I think we may not have had so many objectors here today. To clarify, if the application is granted today, we are talking about a full-on licence. That's for sales, on sales and off sales to anybody who walks in the door. Now, from a policing point of view, admittedly a lot of my time was spent policing Basildon. Public houses and the car parks are public houses, and incidents of disorder occur pretty much every Friday and Saturday night. So there is a massive difference between a registered club certificate run by its members, for its members, on a membership basis, to a full-on licence. The second difference, I think, which is pertinent to mention at this point, is that the applicants have applied for the premises to be licensed, and it will be run by a licensee who has been trained and vetted under the current procedures to become themselves a licensee. A week after opening, the applicants here could step down and a new licensee take over. And whatever the intentions of the existing applicants are to how they would like to run it are largely irrelevant, because the new applicant or the new licensee who already has his or her liquor license takes over, and they can decide to run it however they wish. They could decide to run it as a club for motorcyclists, as a club for attracting a younger element, older element, whatever they wish. So we're not looking today perhaps to object to the applicants, which, you know, I would welcome a premises which was run much in the manner of a club registration certificate. Maybe you wouldn't want a full-on public house run in any manner going forward from this point onwards. It is a very different application. So I would like to make that clear, that it's not what they envisage they're going to be able to run the club as, more that once they have licensed the building, it can be run in any way, shape or form, and their particular ideas are largely irrelevant. The other thing I would like to take into account, I understand that the committee have to take into account proximity. It's one of your guidelines. The cottage, Pond Cottage, that myself and Susie Davison reside in is 7 feet, 2.4 metres from the premises. Now, the premises is a Nissen hut. I thought Nissen huts were something that were introduced in the Second World War. It's actually a First World War, apparently, building, which is built way outside of building regulations without boring the committee. The use of asbestos was banned in 1999, while it's largely an asbestos construction. Sound insulation, heat insulation wasn't one of the considerations for that type of building. It's got one little window at the front, no windows at the side, and unfortunately it's got a rather low ceiling and a rather oppressive cave-like nature, which takes significant renovation to change that fact. The point regarding contacting the residents to discuss the proposed running of a new premises, I'd just like to clarify that we haven't been contacted. We've had no approach. That's just the clock I'm hoping, not me running out of time. We've not been approached. We've not had a chance to sit down and discuss. I did work, or say work, I had good contact with the Royal British Legion as was, and we would discuss things like, you know, cutting hedges, things like that, and they were amicable. But I've not even been able to get eye contact so far with the current management team, so a little bit disappointed in that respect. The other thing I would like to talk about is that your committee are required to look at the transport links, and transport has been mentioned before. I've done a little bit of research into this. I originally was looking that the premises would shut at 11 o'clock, 2300 hours. I now understand that has changed. I wasn't aware of that. I looked at the bus service in Boxted, down Straight Road. There isn't a bus after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So obviously, as you're probably aware, there's no rail service in Boxted. So in terms of transport links, which you are considering, there are no transport links other than cars and taxis to get people from the premises. In contrast to that, 2 miles down the road, you have the Colchester Stadium. The Colchester Stadium has certain benefits. We've been talking about, you must consider the nighttime economy of the borough. Colchester Stadium has 6 licensed premises that I'm aware of, though I stand to be contradicted by the police licensing representative. I went and did some research there this week, and surprised even the chicken takeaway premises has got a liquor license. Those 6 licensed premises have adequate parking, good lighting, CCTV security. They are not in proximity to any residential properties, so no disturbance is caused. A bus travels to that stadium every 20 minutes. and the last bus is at 23:02. So people can exit the licensed premises and get back to Colchester or return to their home address using public transport. So a good facility with excellent excellent amenities for the customers within relatively good transport links and within 2 miles of the proposed location of the new on-licence. In addition to that, the premises has, I noticed, 2 large allocated buildings, which the proposed notice on the side says for a restaurant. I believe there's 2 restaurants, one 3,744 square licensed premises unoccupied, and one 3,077 square feet additional restaurant, licensed restaurant, also unoccupied. There seems to be a low uptake in the licensed premises in that excellent facility, which seems to be a shame. So if you're considering over-provision, you might want to consider the proximity of the stadium. You've also got other public houses, the Mimosa restaurant within 2 miles, the Shepherd and Dog public house within 2 miles. So there are a number of other licensed premises in existence in proximity to the location. Noise and disorder. I am concerned, although I might have to amend my objection slightly, that the premises was going to run, as far as the notice we were provided with, to 2,300 hours every single day. So there would be no remit in terms of noise nuisance. We would assume that the premises would shut at 11, people would start to leave, and then inevitably, as a resident, you've got doors slamming, people shouting, "Good night, Fred," sitting, finishing their last cigarette. A premises might shut at 2,300 hours, but the last person, inevitably, the most intoxicated person, does not leave immediately, waiting to be collected by taxis, whatever. So the noise does continue beyond the licensing hours. So that would be a concern. And being in such close proximity to that car park, obviously, the quality of lifestyle of myself, Susie, and the other predominantly elderly residents is going to be detrimentally affected by that noise, that lack of sleep. My partner, who's a nurse, gets up for work at 6 in the morning. Potentially she's not had much sleep because the last person's left the car park sometime between 11 o'clock and midnight. If she's able to get to sleep from the irritation of being kept awake at that time. I'm not going to touch on the parking issue. In essence, just would mention from the committee's point of view, safety is an issue. So maybe the fact that it's an unlit road and people are non-residents from and out of the area are parking in an unlit road late at night, leaving, there may be an element of safety to consider with the lack of a decent car park as is when it comes to parking. But I won't cover the fact of parking as that's been adequately covered. I'd like to talk about security. Going back to my uniform days, an unoccupied licensed premises, be it members club or full-on licence, is generally speaking a target for thieves. My partner and myself have been aware of occasions, I think 10 occasions, when the attempts have been made to force entry to, as was the Royal British Legion. It was somewhat of a ramshackle building, so that may have been attractive, but the main attraction is cash left on the premises in cash machines, the isolation of the premises, and the fact that there's obviously alcohol, bottles of alcohol, which are easy to dispose of and resell in pubs. Any attendance from a patrol car coming from Colchester leaves plenty of time for a thief to ignore the alarm and carry on breaking into the premises or to make their escape. So the village of Boxted doesn't have a police station. It doesn't have regular police patrols. So it is isolated and may attract, as did in the past, theft. The provision of toilets was, I thought, somewhat limited for a premises, obviously music and dancing, but again, I understand that's a matter for application, so I'm not going to dwell on that on that particular issue. A point I would like to raise is there is a village pond next to the premises. It attracts deer, wildfowl, bats, many species of bird and insect, as all watercourses do. It's a very useful source for the local wildlife to come. We've seen deer drinking there. Since the revival renovations have started, an amount of builder's rubble has been thrown in the pond, which obviously is unsightly, but I am concerned it might be the intentions of the applicants to fill the pond in and deprive the village of this, and the wildlife of the village, of this resource, which seems a shame to me. Remembering that Boxted is noted as an area of outstanding natural beauty. In conclusion, I was going to suggest that the committee might consider, were they to grant this full-on liquor licence today, would they curtail the hours of the premises such that we would have some respite from the noise when people leave the premises, the banging doors, the shouts of good night, the last smokers, drinkers leaving, so that we would have some break from that. But obviously being in such immediate proximity to it, you know, that is very much one of our concerns, the noise issue.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. If you'd like to stay there for a second.
Certainly.
Just to ask if any of the others would like to ask. No? Catherine?
Okay. I should think living in Boxers Strait Road, it's amazing on a Saturday listening to the roar coming from the stadium as we're playing a local game. The stadium's well looked after and has amazing facilities there.
Yes.
And being a Colu supporter, I'm regularly there. Lucky enough to have a box with friends, so we enjoy it to the full. Obviously, they also have loud music at the stadium and things like that obviously filters through the fields and everything. But what I'm getting to is with living next door, that's going to be to what used to be the British Legion. Obviously, you expect a certain amount when you live next door to something, whatever it is, whether it's a shop, a school, or a British Legion, you expect some things to disrupt your lifestyle because you're living right next door to it. That is expected.
Yes, yes,
yeah.
I very much agree with you.
So I understand where you definitely like things in place. I know with like a white van, if you've got a white van, a lot of people put on the white van, there's nothing in here, so don't bother breaking in. Maybe signage might help that all cash is removed at the end of the day, so there's nothing to break in. Maybe that there's a secure locked area for alcohol, so again, you know, there's nothing to break in. That might make you feel more reassured in that sort of side of things. And also with people leaving, I know a lot of clubs and pubs usually have a sign to say, be aware of residents around, please take note that when you're leaving, to be respectful of that area. Also, I believe they said they were possibly doing pool and darts evenings. So it would be nice if the villagers were aware of those evenings, because obviously that would bring a footfall in of a team of usually 6 to 8 people that would come in a car of maybe 1 or 2 cars and would leave with 1 or 2 cars to play those games and leave at a set time, which is averaging around sort of 10:30 those games usually finish. So I would have thought signage would have helped there to just remind those people coming into the village, this is a lovely, beautiful, quiet village, and we'd like you to respect that when leaving the premises. And, you know, as for the pond, that's a little disheartening that there may be some stuff that's been left there by builders, and I would have thought that hopefully the person that is in charge of dealing with those sort of people, ensures that any waste and rubbish is taken away properly. They're the only things that I wanted to bring up, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for introducing those. I should add really at this point, we need to be very careful that we don't stray off down too many rabbit holes. The remit of this committee is quite distinct, and there are lots of things that we are not allowed to be involved with, whether or not we would like to. So we do need to actually bring ourselves back to where we are and the application that is before us, rather than stray into the desirables which will need to be considered in other places. However, one of the themes that comes to me is that, and if I can just interject this at this point, the application times, as have been put on the form, are effectively the standard application times that we would anticipate for items of this nature. Am I right? I'm looking to the licensing officer for a nod or a shake. Are they the sort of standard times that we would be looking at for premises of these natures?
Chairman, I mean, obviously times are put in accordance with the business, so it's a business need, so we don't have standard times as such. They're certainly not within our policy. They're within our policy, Chairman.
They're within our policy. They're not cast in tablets of stone. In other words, the point that I'm coming to, one of the themes that's been coming out from a number of people that have spoken with us, and indeed offered from your good selves, is that you don't actually propose to operate to the times that are specified within the application. And if that is so, and if you say, okay, well, we're quite prepared to apply for lesser hours to be substituted in our application, that might alleviate a number of concerns, simply because, as particularly Mr. Bird has pointed out, once you've got a licence, you can flog it to somebody else and then they can take it away. I asked the question of the officer because I don't know whether it is possible to do that. The officer will be able to inform us whether or not that is something that can be done, should you decide that you might like to do that.
Chairman, certainly any amendment can be made to the application, or rather you could just determine to grant lesser hours. While we're on the issue of hours, though, I don't, strictly speaking, the Royal British Legion licence is a matter that you need to consider. But as it has been raised and is raised repeatedly in the representations, just to confirm, the Royal British Legion licence was for longer than is currently being sought by the existing licence. They sought a licence until midnight on, or hadn't licensed, sorry, until midnight on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. The current application in front of you is for lesser hours than that, just to clarify that point. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. So that's very useful. I think what comes out of this is that the hours that the premises, I say the premises rather than the club or the licence you're seeking, are dictated by economic circumstances rather than what you're strictly applying for or maybe entitled to. So I have no doubt in my mind that there are two separate items here. There is a club member's licence, as Mr. Bird refers to, and the licence that you're now applying for. The residents' concerns, clearly some of them circle around the times that you propose to be open, and if it was your consideration, and you need to have a little think about this, to have the hours that you mentioned that you really wanted to be open, as you just mentioned, and I saw a few sighs of relief going around the room when you said that, that may assist. If you say, no, we're going to stick to the hours that are put in the application, then that is the application we will hear. If you wish to amend the times in your application, I would suggest say so now, and we can consider that. I merely put that as a point. It is not obligatory. Anyway, have a think about it whilst we take the next speaker.
Mr. Chairman, could I respond to a comment made by your colleague there about signage? I just thought I might briefly respond to that, if I may. With regard to signage to deter burglaries, like where there is an alarm, you have to obviously consider signage has a value, but it's of quite a weak value. We've arrested burglars from the past who were illiterate, couldn't read or write, from a particular community who broke into the licensed premises in Basildon area. Also, in respect of signage, when people leave, like please leave quietly, that has a limited value if the people have consumed intoxicants and have had a good night. Then if they read and adhere to a written sign on a tree, is less probable than being controlled by either a very firm licensee or the members club. So signage, I would say, has a limited value. If you put conditions on a premises license, then that has strong legal implications for the person who holds the liquor license. So I would suggest conditions rather than signage, if I may.
Thank you very much indeed. Are we happy with that? Right, you've got a point you wish to make? You're burning to make. I can see it.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this will be more a question for officers because it was mentioned by a current speaker as well. In one of the comments, it was noted that planning committee is a statutory consultee. Planning authority is a statutory consultee for our committee, and speaker mentioned asbestos, and in another comment it was mentioned that this may be a potential health hazard for visitors as well as people living nearby, in case an antisocial behavior happens in this building. So did we receive or did we approach the planning team to receive some feedback on this application?
Yes, because they are statutory consultees, so they are consulted. They haven't responded direct on this matter, but that's not unusual, because planning is a matter that we can't actually take into consideration the planning matters around this building. That is a completely separate issue. So whilst they are statutory consultee, they rarely have anything to say on applications of this type.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That again underlines some of the problems that we have. We may identify problems, but in this forum, this particular forum, we cannot address them. We can flag them up and say they need to be addressed, but we cannot do anything about them. However, I think you've recognised yourselves that if you undergo extensive renovations and the like, as was suggested, then one of the things inevitably that will happen will be that the asbestos will be disturbed. And you'll have to then do something about it. But I'm sure you're aware of that, absolutely sure of that, because you've nodded enthusiastically. And we all know that these old Nissan Hunts, lovely old place it was, and it's in the list of special local buildings, I think in a couple of years ago that was included as one of a building of special local interest. That will be taken into account, so you'll need to apply for a special consent to do that. So I'm sure you're aware of it. Asbestos, when it's left alone, is fine. As soon as you disturb it, it then becomes a big problem. But again, that's not within our remit. We're not considering that. We're just dealing with the application. Mr. Bird, are you happy?
Yes, I am. Just a final word. I'd just like to say to the applicants, if you did mention discounted drinking, I'd have to say in my experience that is a huge mistake. Once a premises is identified as doing cheap drinks, it then becomes a pricing issue. I would discourage the idea of cut price drinking very strongly.
Unless it's a members' club, of course.
Unless obviously it's a members' club, yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much indeed. Perhaps the Boxted Club revives itself. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bird. Thank you. Right, moving on. We have Mr. Keeble. You'll have got the procedure by now, Mr. Keeble. Are you happy with it? Good. Don't rush in your own time. Press the button. The red light will...
We're not, do I just hold it like that? Okay. I think I was honest at the beginning of my representation to say that I've lived immediately opposite the British Legion for 22 years, and I have not had cause for complaint. And there's been annoyances and nuisances, particularly parking across the end of my drive, but I haven't complained. And if things carried on as they were, which is what we're hearing, then I probably wouldn't worry too much. By way of background, my career, I'm retired now, my career was in the waste management industry, where I spent 40 years dealing with planning applications and licenses for major waste management facilities like landfill sites, treatment centres, incinerators, that kind of thing. So I do understand the difference between planning and licensing and the way that I know you can't take account, but you can't be completely silent about planning. So warning signs for me were public house, open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Sounds like that's not what's intended, which is fair enough, and I understand that. But I'm looking beyond Mr. Coppin to when he sells or passes on the license to somebody else, the license that could be granted for a public house, which has its own planning connotations. For me, that was a monumental proposal for a change of use. Just on the back of this simple license application, suddenly a pub appears next door. That can't be right. It's in a rural setting and it's outside the village envelope. I'm convinced it needs planning permission, but as yet I've not been able to get the planning authority to come off the fence. And so it's the future that I'm concerned with. If you can, and I fully accept and understand Mr. Coppin's expectation. He wants to run it as business as usual, carry on with the people that have been there. But, you know, I don't follow Facebook either. But my wife says, wow, have you seen this? New pub, parties, come on, all welcome. Let's, you know, this is the danger. And the danger for me is if you grant a license for a pub, then that will become in the future the established use of this facility. And I don't think that's right. Going through other parts of my representation, Paul has dealt with break-ins, the old style of the building. A new pub will attract a lot of new interest and increase the number of people, so the risk of crime is going to rise greatly. There was, as far as I could see, there was no maximum number of people stated in the application. It was a blank. And so that's a worry as well. On public safety, I've heard all of the arguments that you don't deal with car parking. But bad car parking creates a risk to the public. And I think what you were discussing earlier was we have had occasions where we've had parties during the day this year, and a lot of vans and cars parked on pavements during the school closing hours, so that mothers with pushchairs and children were forced onto the road. So there's a link there. You can't deal with parking, but by granting permission for this facility in this location, you are creating a danger to public safety. Your policy 2.2 says licensed premises should be suitable for the area within which they are located. It's a small site, a small building, an old building, limited car parking, 5 or 6 spaces. It was not designed or built as a public house, and it certainly is not operating as a public house in the modern connotation. all of the residents, the immediate residents, have complained about parking across their drives and the number of cars parking. So, but your link is public safety. Prevention of public nuisance. I would say the public nuisance is caused by this being a wrong type of facility in the wrong location. It's predominantly issues of people, traffic, parking, noise and light pollution. It's okay, we've accepted it so far for a few functions per year, but we had to deal with the application threatening to make this a public house 24/7 in the future. That's what we're worried about, and worried about the future when you pass on the licence to the next person and this carries on as a public house for a few years and then ipso facto it is established use. So if you can find a way around that, I'll be very pleased. Policy 2.6 of your rules and regulations says it's extremely important that licensed premises operate as good neighbours within their community. Licence holders are encouraged to engage with local residents. Well, once again, I'm one of the closest people to the proposed facility, and there has been no engagement, no explanation. It would have been nice if somebody had written something to explain what was expected, what the proposal was. Like, my career has been spent in writing those kind of reports, explaining to authorities what is proposed. I've seen nothing. No business plan on the marketing research and the need, because there has been none, because it's just been expected business as usual with the same people. We're concerned about the threat, and modern era of social media and Facebook saying, come on, let's party at Boxted British Legion. It's the new Revival pub. So what can you, the licensing authority, do about it? Well, first of all, it's nice and we're pleased that you're considering local residents, but can you please consider operating hours? Can you consider if it's a suitable facility in a suitable location? I think everybody should consider the use of the word public house because it has massive connotations in planning terms. Public house versus drinking establishment, completely different or very different. Limit the maximum occupation, limit the number of nights per week. You've already said you didn't mean that you wanted to open every night of the week. At the moment, we've lived with it with like an occasional use. We haven't really even been able to predict when it's been opened, which is great. And a few parties during the year, not the potential for a pub with partying every night. So I think everything else has probably been covered. But I'd like to see where you do cross with the planners, because I'm absolutely convinced, personally, that a public house needs a planning permission and a licence to operate. Thank you.
Mr. Cable, thank you very much indeed. You have highlighted a number of points where there is considerable frustration, both in the planning committee as also in the licensing committee, in that there is too little, shall I say, integration, which is really what you're suggesting. This is a common theme. It's occurred for years. Hopefully it will be picked up and dealt with in the future, but we have to deal with the case that we have at the moment and the law that separates the two, and as we actually have to address it. So what we're addressing at the moment, as you know, is the application that is in front of us. However, during our discussion so far and the presentation so far, a lot of items have been teased out, if I can put it that way, that I think hopefully can be resolved a little bit more openly and amicably than otherwise would be the case. I will ask if you have anything to say. Okay. Okay. You have. You have. You have.
Sorry.
Don't apologise, that's what we're here for.
So I understand that, is that a defibrillator on the front there? So that's a community thing, that will be still, so you'll obviously still supply the electricity to that as a community that's really well known to that. So I'm getting a feel here that the residents possibly would feel more comfortable if it was less of a pub and more of a club. Is it with guidelines? Is this something that they're suggesting?
The British Legion pub, I think you're coming with, hasn't been run as a club for the past 5 years. So it's been run as a pub under the British Legion. Do you want to?
Yeah. If it's successful, will depend on people who want to come there anyway. We're not intending to open on a Monday and Tuesday at all at the moment, unless there's suddenly a surge in elderly people wanting to drink. We hope to open the normal weekdays from 4 until 9 o'clock, except on the pool night, which is normally finishes about 10 o'clock, but as the people say, sometimes it takes another half hour to get rid of them peacefully. We've got a notice inside the front door about leaving peacefully. I've already been outside and remonstrated with people. I caught one smoking out there last week, and I took his cigarette away from him and told him not outside the back, out in the smoking area. I can fully understand a lot of your concerns, because I would have the concerns myself. I've lived in the village. I'm not a local boy, because I didn't get there until 1945, and you're not considered a local. My father lived in the village. My parents helped build and do the old Legion. They also helped do the village hall. My concern is that to have somewhere where they can come and play club games, pub games. I debated for a long while whether to call it a pub. It was to try and attract a few more people, rather than the ones that didn't want to pay the £20 a year to join the British Legion. And that was where the downfall was. I've been a member of the Legion. It got to a stage where we got down to 5 members. There's only 5 people in the village who were subscribed members. I'm on the local area British Legion Committee, which is an overall governing body with Barry Took, who's the chairman. My wife is on it as well. We support the British Legion. We want to include it virtually as it was. If you can consider how it's been for the last few years, that's how it will be for the foreseeable future. I can't say how long I've got, but she will carry on she's got a son who will carry on with her. I've got 2 sons who would love to come in and do it. But
can I also say, I've worked for the NHS now for 47 years, and I have to have an enhanced DBS, so I've got to be super squeaky clean, because it would reflect on my job. I'd end up losing my job. So, you know, it's the same as someone in the police force. And I'm still working for the NHS. So
Can
I'm
I
not just...
Could I just cut across everybody, please? To avoid us going round and round in circles and going into a circular rabbit hole, the point I made earlier about opening hours and the like, would that be something that you might be willing to consider? restricting your opening hours to more of the hours that you've mentioned that you wanted to be open. I didn't hear any objections to those at all, actually.
Chair, I think it's reasonable that we're here to hear the application as it's set. I think unless it's being amended, I think it's reasonable that we just carry on with the application.
I agree with that. What I think would be a disappointment, though, would be if the applicant was going to put their hand up and say, no, actually, we're willing to amend the times, rather than refuse an application outright, and they have to come back again. And that costs people a lot of money and wastes a lot of time, whereas if the applicant's actually willing to amend, I can't invite them to do that. They have to say they are willing to do that themselves, but I've hinted that that might be a way of assuaging some of the points that have been brought forward and might assist you. So, again, I put that point to you. Do you want to consider that or not?
Yes, we can consider it. The only thing we put it in for a bit longer was like Boxing Day morning, might like to open for a couple of hours. People like to have a drink Boxing Day and things like that.
I'm sorry, I've really got to say that we must consider the application as it stands. The objections have been made to the current application. We can't be.
I can assure you we won't be opening at the hours that was in the Facebook.
Thank you.
I would hate it because I wouldn't be able to stand up that long.
Thank you, Mr. I do appreciate that, but you'll appreciate that I've got to work within the guidelines and the law that is set. I'm trying to find a way that would actually assist you, but if I'm not allowed to do that, and the application has to be considered, it's either all or nothing, then if a refusal comes out of that, then you have to start again saying the hours that you would like. I'm sorry about that. Is that correct?
It is correct. It's not all or nothing, Chair, but your deliberations with me is where I keep you on the straight and narrow within the Licensing Act. But it's not an all or nothing. You may choose to make alterations to the operating schedule or the hours requested.
Fine.
So it's,
okay, fine. Let's not dance around the head of a pin. Would you like to write down on a little sheet of paper the hours that you would like? We will be able to consider them.
No, I've just said it's the hours on the application.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Okay, no, that's fine.
It must be proper.
Fine, we seem to be proceeding somewhat less than satisfactorily, but never mind. Mr. Keeble, any other things you would like to add before we close your statement?
No, I don't think so, but I would love to see the intention. If, for example, there might be another application in the future, I would ask the applicant to consider very carefully the use of the word public house. Because what you describe is not really a public house, so but it is a members' club. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Okay, we now move on, and the last person I've got indicated wants to speak is Nicholas Simonek, is it? How do you say it? Simonek. Right, Mr. Simonek, do come and have a seat. We have this problem elsewhere, don't we, Right, Mr. Simonek, the floor is yours. Sorry, the floor is yours.
Thanks. I'll keep this fairly short because most of the things that we as residents are concerned about have been very eloquently covered by my fellow residents of Boxted and nearby to the venue. But I couldn't help picking up on some things as we were going through the meeting today that really, really don't make the case very well, I don't think. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment as well. It was pointed out that the use of the venue would be maybe to attract mature people, presumably from the village, because the dynamic of Boxted is it's got a lot of mature people. But historically, I'm going to use this term quite regularly, historically, we do still get antisocial driving, for example. You can call it dangerous driving from people coming in and out of the what was the British Legion and maybe will be the revival in the future. So you know, I know we're not, it's outside the remit to keep coming back to the parking, but it's not outside our remit because it's going to affect us. It already affects us now. A recent example was the detectorists meeting at the venue. Okay, the detectorist people are great. We love seeing them in the fields. They're not antisocial at all, but the level of car parking that we had to contend with shows that any potential large event in the future, we're going to get that problem again, and forwards, you know, ad infinitum. It's been mentioned that you know, Straight Road is potentially a dangerous road anyway because of the speeding, and I'll come back to that in a second. But we just don't have the space there. Now, I've got in my notes here that there would be an application for 10 extra parking spaces. So I'd be very interested to find out where that will be. There was a rumour going around that the pond, which was mentioned earlier on, would be filled in effectively. We've seen rubble in there already, and knowing that there's potentially asbestos in the building, it's not a big leap of the imagination to assume that that asbestos has gone into the pond, which I think is completely unacceptable. The pond is a very welcome area that people enjoy, and Paul, as Paul said, you know, there are deer there and other wildlife. So if that was concreted over effectively to allow the extra parking spaces, you know, we really wouldn't want that, to be honest. Now, there was a somewhat surprising mention about a football stadium at Colchester, about noise pollution from there, and there isn't any. That's completely false. You might hear the odd cheer, fairly rare, if Colchester score or something like that, and the wind's blowing the right way, but there's no other noise pollution from that. So that really, it seems a little bit of a strange thing to do. And also, excuse me, the use of signs, such as, you know, please leave quietly, please respect the local residents. We've got 30-mile-an-hour speed signs along Straight Road, and if you can find somebody that actually takes any notice of those ever, you're doing really well. The school run is probably the worst offender in terms of people speeding. So what you have to accept is that Straight Road is a road that is busy all the time and people speed on it all the time. So if you have an overspill of car parking through any event onto Straight Road, you've got to have a potential for disaster, whether it's people being forced off the pavement, potentially in the dark, or you know, people getting out of their car and getting hit by a speeding motorist. You know, it's a big problem. So whilst it's outside the remit of this meeting, it's certainly not outside the remit of our concerns. And finally, I'm just going to approach this from a slightly different way, because everything's been covered incredibly well. I'm going to talk about what I personally have found to be one of the most unsavoury aspects of that building, and that is the poor quality of lighting used. I mean, I've been a Boxted resident for 10 years, and since the first night we moved in, there's been inappropriate lighting. Now, you probably think, well, what does that mean? It's lighting that is left on 24 hours a day sometimes, or, you know, throughout the night, and what a lot of people don't realise is how detrimental that kind of lighting is for wildlife. We talked about the pond, you know, attracting wildlife, which is great. Unfortunately, that kind of poor lighting, and there is poor lighting on that building at the moment. There always was when it was the British Legion, and I did speak to Barry about it, but unfortunately nothing was done until much more recently. Now, the thing is, as people have said, Boxted is an incredibly lovely place to live. It's just outside the area of the national landscapes now, outside the Dedham Vale. Now, I'm actually a committee member of the Dedham Vale Society's Campaign for Dark Skies. Now, that's not as crazy as you might think it sounds. All we're interested in doing, and I must give a big thank you to Karen and people from the local parish council who are really keen to work with us to preserve the beauty of Boxted at night and in the daytime, of course. What a lot of people don't realise, the damage that bad lighting does, particularly for wildlife. It will remove the owls from the area, it will attract moths to the area, the moths will be eaten by the bats who know the moths come to the lights, and we're losing valuable nighttime pollinators. So, you know, something most people don't think about, but it really, they should, because it's important. Historically, it's been terrible lighting there, and, you know, it's a blight on the landscape, to be honest. So, if there was a way maybe of going forwards on that with the use of appropriate lighting for the use of the residents, because I'll introduce you to a term called light trespass, which you probably haven't heard of before, but if you have inappropriate lighting or bad lighting and you have properties opposite, if it shines into their bedroom, that's light trespass and it affects people's sleeping cycles. And it can be addressed legally. So, as I say, everything else has been covered very eloquently by the other members here today, but I would like to just put that in as well, because it's a very horrible thing, shall we say, and, you know, it can be addressed really simply by the use of appropriate lighting. And that's probably as much as I need to say on that, so I'm happy to stop at that point.
Lovely, Mr. Summit. Thank you very much indeed. I do have to draw everybody's attention back to the fact that we are actually here to consider a licensing application that is before us, as I have been reminded, as to what I can do and what I can't do, which is somewhat disappointing in a way. All of the points that have been raised, I would say probably 80% of them are not licensing related. However, they are very relevant to the community interest and the community way that things are done. And I'm sure that all the points that have been raised, whether they're licensing or not, will have been taken aboard by Mr. Copping and his family and the applicants, because they want this to succeed. They want to succeed for them, they don't want to succeed for whoever may come along in the future, but we're not allowed to consider that. I'm encouraged by the fact that they've been nodding their heads and writing things down as you go along. So clearly there is a community interest there that they wish to try to serve. I think you also will have got a feeling of what we can do as this committee and what we can't do as this committee. So that's the constraints, you will have seen them, and some of the things that we've talked about, frankly, we're not allowed to consider in making the call on this item. However, they've been made, and rather than curtailing everybody's comments, I've let everybody carry on and make them, because I think they're valuable in the context of a community facility for the applicants to take aboard. Otherwise, we probably could have gone home, you know, an hour or so sooner than we will. So I think that's a valuable way forward. Before we finish this part, I would ask my colleagues if they've got anything they would like to say, preferably restricted to licensing matters and no rabbit holes. Kemal.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to thank Speaker. As an environmentalist councillor, I would thank you for your work and raising awareness on the importance of dark skies and environment. But again, I would echo our Chair that this is probably a matter of planning committee. But personally, I would like to thank you for your work. Thank you, Chair.
Again, I would follow that lighting is a big thing, and I get that. I hope all the other businesses are following the same thing. We can't do anything about highways or anything, so I won't go back down the road of being a straight road. Everybody wants to put their foot down. And I do appreciate everything that you brought to the table, and I really do hope that all the notes that have been taken from residents to make this a community hub or, going forward are taken into consideration. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Fine. Before I close off the objectors part, does anybody else not recorded here want to say anything? Ah, we have somebody else that wants to say something. Right. Am I allowed to do that? Have you made a representation? You have, right. Well, please, would you like to say who you are and come forward, please?
Hello, Chairman and Committee. I'm Susie Davidson and I live at Pond Cottage, and I've lived next door to the British Legion for 26 years, and I do park in the car park. I haven't really had a problem with the British Legion. They were very approachable. All the chairmen that I've come across, all very helpful. The prospective people for the Revival Pub have not come anywhere near. The only person that I've been in contact with, sorry, I don't know your name, but he was very aggressive, told me I couldn't park in the place I was parked at. I was parked next to another car that had moved, and so I had to deal with that aggression. And I was on the phone to a professional person at the time, a dietitian. Anyway, besides that, the parking is abominable. They park in front of the gate, despite notices. I've even had to put bollards out so that we can get into the gate, and they're moved. And also I have seen people urinating outside. They throw their fag butts everywhere, and I do have a camera on my gate, so I have seen this, and it is recorded for my own benefit. Thank you.
Sorry, I left my red light on as well. Thank you very much indeed for the points that you've made. Any points that you wish to ask?
Only these incidents, is that when it was British Legion run?
It's been both.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much indeed for the points you've made. Thank you. Right, deep breaths. Would you like to sum up anything that you would like to say?
I don't want to go through all of these comments or whatever in great detail because we're here, as you say, forever, and it's really not worth it. I would suggest, however, that we could arrange in the future to take on board what you were saying for a meeting with the locals and describe everything in detail as to what's happening, what will be happening now and in the future. So a very good point made there. Very, very quickly, music. At the moment, there is no music in the property, none whatsoever. There will be some small Alexa-type background music. There's no plan for any bands or gigs or whatever. Not going to happen. Parking. I appreciate there is a parking problem. I also have photographs of the locals around about lunchtime, the local people parking on pavements, which obviously affect people pushing prams, mobility scooters, whatever it may be. So, okay, what are we doing about the parking? We've actually moved the fence at the side of the property back the best part of, what, 10 metres, 15 metres? That gives more access for people to park off the road. The two trees in question that people have said are dead and we want to get rid of them because that will improve the parking in the area. But we've got to go through somebody else because they've got a TPO on them. No problem. There's also plans to have additional parking at the rear of the property where again we could get maybe another 10 vehicles in there, whatever. Okay. We have also been in contact with the police and the highways department and they don't have a problem with it at all as it stands at the moment. It's only one day, a Thursday, when the metal detector people come down. That's the issue. We are trying to address it. It was pointed out that it should be run as a club. That's something for Mr. Coppin to decide what he's going to do. But I will reiterate that for the last 5 years, it has not been run as a club. There are no club members. They didn't even have a licence to operate in that building. Right? It was run as a pub. what noise and parking issues they had then, I don't know. The closeness of neighbours, well, okay, the pub's been there for 77 years. I say pub, club, whatever. 77 years. I don't know the amount of issues or problems they've had in that time. But again, if we can all get together and discuss what we're doing, that'd be great for everybody concerned. That includes the closeness of neighbours, etc. Security break-ins. Yes, there was one, somebody cut through the roof, a bit stupid, because it's only the roof that is asbestos. So you might find these people are suffering with lung problems there, but okay, great, that's their problem. Asbestos, yes, it can be very, very dangerous, as we all know, especially the blue asbestos. I've worked with it myself. It's only the roof that has asbestos. The modifications that have already been done inside, i.e. removing a 15,000 litre, whatever it was, tank of oil, because that was illegal, not bundled, not in a fireproof area. That was taken out, and all of that rubbish, nothing to do with the roof, asbestos, was thrown into the pond. Our builder did that. Okay, somebody complained, a member of the council come down, and it was explained to them, excuse me, if you look at the plans, our boundary covers half of that property, half of that pond. We own half of that pond, or say Mr. Coppin owns it. There are plans, the council walked away and said, thank you very much, have a nice day. There are plans, hopefully in the future, to do something with that pond to include better parking, if we're allowed to do it. I don't know what the plans are, how you go about that. The pond, yeah, okay. Sometimes you get a little bit of water in it, but it's not a deep pond. It's just a mess. Okay. Area of natural beauty, I guess.
It's got a wire fence all round it.
Yeah, it's got a wire fence all round it. As I say, part of that actually is owned by Mr. Cochran. Okay, security, done that. The future for the licence, I can't answer that. What's going to happen in the future? It could happen to the Shepherd and Dog, the pub, 2-3 miles further on. Somebody could sell that up to a garage, and they put a garage there, or a nuclear something or other. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So that's open. Speeding, we can't stop people speeding. If it's a problem, and the Highways Department and the police are concerned about that, and if no one's taken any notice of 30-mile-an-hour signs, put some speed ramps down, whatever. That's not our problem. We can't stop people speeding. Fine. Lighting, external, I'm sure that's
on the stuff that should be on a flash thing. Moment.
Yeah, okay. The lighting external is poor. We are in contact with, who are they called? Very Sure.
Yes, they're the...
Oh, that's the alarm system.
Yes,
That's the alarm system. But yeah, okay, the external lighting can be improved. We are aware of it. We can make it better. It will not be shine. It does not shine into people's bedrooms at the moment because it's that poor anyway. We can improve on that. Very Sure, as I say, yes, we're in contact with them and they're putting in an alarm system. You've seen it advertised on the television, whatever. And the last thing, the last lady who was here, her parking, what she said is absolutely wrong. And I'll stand up in a court of law and say that. She is wrong. Her car is a green, whatever it is, car, and it was parked there. I was working there and another car appeared, a white thing. She saw me standing at the door, but she looked the other way. I went round to the front of the car. She looked the other way. She was not on the telephone to anybody. I tapped on the windscreen. That apparently is, he's banging on my car. And I said, excuse me, madam, are you parking here? She said, yes. Yes, she says, of course I am, it's common ground. I said, I'm sorry, I don't believe it's ever been common ground. And it's not common ground now. It's owned by another individual. Oh, she said, well, I'll park in front of that one then. And I left. I wasn't abusive. End of story. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Well, I'll just prune out of what anybody has said. We don't want to have any arguments or fisticuffs about who did what, where and how. We don't want to be involved. We don't want to be involved with that because it's not actually part of the licensing application. But anyway, right. Let's move on. Have you summed up? Is there anything else you'd like to
Pardon?
add? Is there anything you'd like
No,
to
I
add?
covered that.
It's just done.
I'm just going to say that
Press your button, do you?
just bought this place.
Button.
Sorry, we bought the Revival, and I think it's the name pub that has upset a lot of people. And we should have had consultations, but we relied on other people to do the work on the internet, you know, on the website. So for that, I apologise that we didn't get in touch with the locals. But it's not our intention to have raves. I'm far too old for a rave. And to have raves, you need to have a warehouse back in somewhere, back and beyond. And I'm a resident of Boxted, and I do enjoy living there. And I'm just as much a resident, and I like Boxted as much as the people that have come forward. So that's all I can say. We want to work with you and not against you, but that's it.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. If we can turn our red lights, that would be marvellous. Thank you. Right. I think we've got to the point now where everybody's summed up. Everybody's had to say what they want to say. We now need to go and consider where we are. So what we will now do, we will adjourn to the next room and discuss how we're going to be able to take this forward, and then we will come back and announce the decision that the committee will have made. Okay. In the meantime, thank you for your attendance. I do apologise if it will take us a few minutes to go through this, bearing in mind we've been going for 2 hours. It'll likely take us a little while to sift through all the things that we've got to sift through and then come back to you. So if I could ask for your forbearance for that, please. Thank you. Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed for waiting. I'm sorry it's taken us so long to go through this, but it's the fact that we've taken so long to do it is a reflection on how seriously we've actually taken what everybody has said. So representations from everybody have been taken into account in coming to a decision. I'm now going to read out the decision. Following careful deliberations, the Licensing Subcommittee has reached the decision to grant the application made by the Revival Pub Limited relating to premises on Strait Road, Oxted CO45QN, subject to a reduction in the permitted hours for the sale of alcohol until 10 p.m. Monday to Saturday, which implies that the rest is the same. In reaching its decision, the subcommittee carefully considered the information which had been placed before it as part of the application, and by the applicant and all interested parties during the hearing, and it additionally gave careful consideration to the concerns which had been raised by local residents. The subcommittee was mindful of the concerns which had been raised by interested parties, and considered in particular the rural nature of the premises, the close proximity of some neighbours, and the potential for disturbance caused by patrons leaving the premises at night. The subcommittee noted that no representations had been received from any of the statutory responsible authorities, and that additional conditions had been agreed with Essex Police and the Council's own environmental protection team. The subcommittee was very clear in its deliberations that although a number of concerns had been raised by local residents, covering a wide range of issues including parking, lighting, planning permission, and the potential future use of the venue, these did not fall within its remit or the remit of the licensing regime. All parties to this hearing have the right to appeal this decision to the Magistrates' Court, and further information in relation to this right will be provided by the licensing officer. The end. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time and trouble to produce